was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging seas. My God, He holds the victory. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. We won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's darkness surely in this place. We won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause He hung up on that cross and He rose up from that grave. Oh my God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. We won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. 'Cause we were the beggars, and now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, and now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. We are the beggars, and now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, and now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet, no. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. Our joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet, no. We'll shout out your praise. It's surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. Oh, we'll shout out your
Hey, welcome to Prairie Lakes Church. I'm Cody. I'm the digital pastor, and before anything else, we need you to hear we're a no-matter church. What that means is no matter who you are, where you've been, what you've done, or even what's been done to you, or maybe even what your NCAA March Madness bracket looks like, we need you to hear God loves you, and you can look for Him here with us. So we're really glad that you're here. And hey, this is an exciting weekend. It's a different weekend here at Prairie Lakes Church. We're calling it Next Chapter Part 2, because if you're not familiar, we have been in a succession process as a church. And this is an exciting weekend because as part of that process, we get to present a lead pastor candidate to you. So stay tuned. It's going to be an exciting weekend. And if you are new, I would love to connect with you and get you connected here at Prairie Lakes Church, because connected people are growing people. So if you take that step here today, I'll get you an Amazon gift card as a thank you. And all you need to do that is fill out our welcome card. And you can get to that by texting PLC, just those 3 letters, to 99581. The next step that we take here is giving generously. And practically, your generosity fuels our ministry here. We have an online campus. We have 7 physical campuses across the state, and that is in part due to your generosity. So thank you for everyone who has given so generously. That fuels our ministry. And if you want to give right now, you can do that online at prairielakes.org/give. But let's continue in today's service.
Hey, Prairie Lakes, welcome. We are really glad you're here. And as your campus pastor just told you, this really is a big weekend. In fact, a pretty historic weekend in the life of Prairie Lakes Church. And we're really excited about it. And let me just remind you, we have been praying. We asked you to pray for the last several months at 5:25 a.m. or p.m. The verse from Galatians 5:25, which if you remember, like it's let us keep in step with the Spirit, right? So the context of that verse is this: the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And then he says, against such things there is no law. And then he says this: those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. And here's our verse: since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. And that's been our prayer. We're asking you to pray that as we go through this process of succession, that we would just be led by the Spirit. So, 2 reminders. One, I'm driving this. This idea of switching seats was mine, and the Holy Spirit gave it to me. And I'm really excited about what God's been up to. And it's been a great process. And kind of ironically, 25 years ago this month, like literally right now. Which is crazy, right? 25 years ago this month, Kay and I came here. We're voted to come here. So it's just pretty crazy timing in God's world. So with all that being said, I want to say to all of Prairie Lakes right now that your elders, after the recommendation of a long process with the succession team, have voted unanimously and joyfully to present Pastor Jesse Tink as our lead pastor candidate. And I'm really excited and humbled for that. So praise God.
Same. Excited, humbled, and also terrified. How about that?
Yeah, you can be all those things, right?
Let's just go ahead and add that in there. Yeah. So, I wish John and I wish we could be in the room all together in this weekend for sure, and we'll get a chance to do that. But some of you, most of you, I'm imagining, know me at least through the screen, right? As a teaching pastor, and some of you have had a chance to meet me personally as I've traveled, but some of you maybe don't know as much about me. So I want to at least introduce on the screen here my family to you. Okay. So this was from spring break. This is super fresh, just this year. This is my family. We're down in St. Louis, obviously. That's my wife, Erin. We were married April 2nd, 2006, which is coming up.
That's coming up too.
So 17 years. I did the math before we talked.
Or you fall on the old Prairie Lakes comeback, which is how many years has it been, Jesse?
Not enough.
Maybe.
That's exactly right. So my wife, Erin, she is from Seattle. We met in Denver, Colorado while I was in seminary, moved to Iowa. She's the executive director of the Waterloo Community Foundation. And then we have 2 kids, Jude, who is soon to be 13. He's a 7th grader at Hoover Middle School. And then Ellie, my 10-year-old, who is in 4th grade at Lou Henry. Now, this is a great picture. This is take number 4. I want to show you take number 1, 2, and 3, okay? All right, here's take 1. Okay, you can see the kids they're struggling. They're struggling against the sun, okay? And then I said, okay, let's try again. So take 2 was this. And you can see it on my face. I took this picture a little too early because the irritation had not yet gone from my face. Okay, but in between those takes, I was let's say, sternly coaching them to suck it up. We need to take a good picture. And so take number 3 is Ellie trying real hard, right? She's trying super hard, right? So okay, so that's my family. We're a real family, just like yours, and we really are. I am excited, humbled, and terrified to be here in this moment. Because let me just start by saying this: I didn't expect to be standing here as a candidate to be your successor, and so my story with Prairie Lakes really starts. This has been my church my entire adult life. You and I met when I was 18.
18 years old.
Yes,
I remember. I remember meeting you probably not the first weekend, but very early when you showed up on the shores of Prairie Lakes.
Yeah, Waterloo was my hometown, and I was blessed to grow up in a family where both mom and dad still following Jesus. Church was super important, but I was an incoming freshman to you and I. Okay, and so some of us in the room, I'm sure, remember our first day or our first service coming into Prairie Lakes. For me, this was way before we were in Prairie Lakes. We were First Baptist Church. It was 7th and Main, downtown Cedar Falls, and it was a summer, and we were doing an outdoor service in the parking lot. Yeah, it was in the parking lot. It was cool. But my first time, I hear it, and some of us, I still talk to people who you remember your first time. My first time was like this. It was weird, but kind of in a good way. And for me, it was weird because people were genuinely happy to be at church.
Church is cool. Church is fun, man.
Which is crazy, right? And then here's the other cool thing: you could tell, people genuinely wanted to know me, and wanted me to be known by others, and just some cool stories that led to a couple of years of a significant renewal in my faith.
Personally, for you personally,
for me personally, and jump into all kinds of things as a volunteer. I ran sound while you were preaching, those kinds of things.
We had a 4-channel board, I think, or something like that.
We did. We made it work. Man.
It worked. It was
good.
Whenever it's bad, I'd say, "Hey."
That's right. Yeah, you just yell back during the service at me. And really that kind of led me up to about, halfway through college when I had what still today is my most significant, God speaking to me moment. And that was just, hey, you're called into vocational ministry. This is supposed to be your job. And I remember making 2 phone calls after that. One was to my parents, who were not surprised. And then the second was to you. Yeah. And because way back when, Pastor John here, he just hands out his cell phone to anybody. so I had it as a 20-year-old, right? And you and I, we set up a breakfast at the old Hy-Vee, which is now something else, and this is where I preached my first sermon. Yeah. As a junior in college.
I'm still trying. I must have been really tired or sick or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To give you that, man.
Yeah, that was a stupid call.
You're 20 years old.
I remember walking up to that for the very first time and looking out across and it was a large audience even back then.
It was a small building, but it was full.
And going I should not be here. This was a bad decision. You
nailed it. Man.
Well, what I'm trying to say is this: I have my story starts with being gifted by our church and being gifted, blessed by you, and so I've been shaped by our culture, and then really for the last 17 years, I've had a chance to help shape our culture. So this is where I've grown up, not just as a pastor, but also as an adult, turns out. And that's really, I kind of joked earlier about this process being terrifying, but that's honestly, that's why it is. Because when we first said yes to hey, would you apply? Okay, it was yeah, but I've got 17 years of just history here.
Well, and that, okay, so just pause just a second on that. And
okay.
The inherent danger, the internal candidate is so much, we talked about this, it's such the higher success rate by 4 to 5-fold, right? But yeah, the danger is, hey, we got to watch you kind of grow up from basically 18 till now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of us right now that are glad there wasn't a lot of eyeballs on us through many of those years.
It has been. Well, you're right, because it's there's a huge blessing in that.
Yes.
Because there's not, you can't really hide.
Right.
You can't be a 3-year and then another 3 years somewhere else, another 3 years somewhere else. You've seen every single one of my growth edges, some of us. And so I've done several different things. I was hired as a college pastor. We had like 150, 200 college kids coming to our Cedar Falls campus. I played the guitar for 2 years, so that qualified me to be a worship pastor.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Those were some strange days. We went multi-site worship and production, so helping to design services and deliver worship and tech ministry across 3 campuses then.
And we were trying to figure everything out.
Trying to figure everything out, you know, for the last, our first campus was the Waterloo campus, which some of us may not even know about. And I did that for 6 years, and lived for the last 7 years now as an executive pastor and a ministry consultant even. So I've just done a lot of different things over the course of these last 7 years.
Yeah, now let's just, we got a little something for you here that you have not seen yet. And you just kind of glossed over, have had, 17 years of different roles. You talked through them, we actually have a little video compilation of, and you haven't seen this yet, right? You have not seen this. Okay, so
no, I'm all kinds of
everybody
nervous
just
about
tune
it.
in. This is a little compilation of the different roles, phases, and stages of
Great.
our brother.
Let's get this out of the way, please.
This is Jesse Tink from Ironwood Springs Christian Ranch.
Oh,
It
Ironwood
is
Springs.
February something, 2007. We're about to go on this hill, and the goal is to hit this jump at the bottom. You can see the light down there.
Oh man.
You hit the jump, if you hold on to your tube, you'll live.
Oh, that's a serious one.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. We had some injuries there. Oh, look at the backwards hat. Oh, the backwards hat.
Good job.
Oh, I did that. I
Had to
did
do that stuff.
Yeah, you had to. That's exactly right. Oh, this was the pond. That was the pond behind,
Oh yeah.
and we were throwing. Yes.
Oh, they're bombing with eggs?
Yes.
No way. Oh, that was.
Oh, I got nailed with one. That hurt. That
You're in the
hurt.
best spot in your hard hand.
That hurt. And then I jumped in, and it's not real deep.
Dude, that's hilarious.
And it's gross.
Like 2 feet deep. Hey, we found that E.
God's
coli was in that too.
present everywhere.
Oh,
and if
good.
God is always present at church, then why don't I always have a clear sense of what he is saying or how he is moving or what exactly he wants me to do or who exactly he wants me to be?
Those were good days. I'm very nervous about this. I just decided to buzz a little bit. You like that graphic tee? I wore graphic tees.
Nice.
Getting to lead worship on stage is a special privilege and a gift. To be up here and to look to your left and look to your right and to see, your fellow sisters and brothers engaged in worship with God, and to look out over a congregation and to see people raise their hands or close their eyes or even sometimes have tears in their eyes because of how they're encountering God is a feeling like no other.
Look at that. A young Zach Elster. Oh yeah. He had the white strap, and that was a blue guitar. He's coming out of his punk years then. That was a good moment too. Yeah.
I'm kind of waiting for the comments on your side.
There's 2
I'm gonna
altars
hold
for
off
us
on
in
that.
Waterloo this year that I would love for us to crawl on and stay on. Our part in achieving these visions of reaching Iowa, of developing a culture of generosity, of radical next steps.
What is the gospel? What's the gospel? If someone came up and asked you, hey, so what's this gospel? What would you say?
That's when we were preaching
Hello,
live.
and welcome again to Prairie Lakes Church. My name is Jesse Tink. I pastor our church over in Waterloo, and yes, I have lost weight. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah, I do notice that.
Yeah.
I want to tell you a story. I've been a part of this church, Prairie Lakes Church, for about 10 years now. First darkened the doors of First Baptist Church back in downtown Cedar Falls in the summer of 1999.
Because one of the coolest things about our church is we've got people every single weekend who are outside of the family of God, right? They haven't stepped across the faith line yet.
Right.
They wouldn't say that they know Jesus or they're following him yet, but they're here. Hey, we want to be more intentional as we develop leaders. And so over these last 2 years, we developed kind of 4 or 5 different big areas of focus when it comes to leadership development at Prairie Lakes. Okay, so the question, one of our questions here is, as a Christian, what's the best way to explain a pro-life stance to someone who is pro-choice?
During the pandemic, yeah.
I always get the real easy ones. Yeah.
We have a tendency as
There's another pandemic.
communicators from the platform, from a campus pastor standpoint, we have a tendency to slip
Set up an office
way too
in
much into the
living
what.
room.
Here's what our mission is. Here's what our vision is. But I would just love to see more permission to do the why.
I'm grateful to be a part of a church alongside of you, underneath you, you at the helm, where this is who we are and this is where we're going. And I've watched us in 1999 do it. I watched us in 2005 do it. I watched us in 2010, we went multi-site, do it. I watched us do this through the Waterloo campus. I watched us do this through the pandemic. I'm watching us do it again. Yeah. And so I just am. I'm just really grateful.
That's actually pretty cool. I thought it maybe cut you, give you a few more B-roll things. That was great. That's fun to watch. It's fun to look back on that, isn't it?
Yeah, that was way less uncomfortable than I thought.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good. I'm actually a little disappointed, to be honest with you. So,
everybody was pretty gracious there.
And it was a great picture.
I think what I even in real time am appreciative about is there's just been so many cool moments. Yeah, man. And it's easy to forget. It is. It's just easy to forget.
Yeah, and honestly, because we talk about you've been here 17 years, but you were here as an 18-year-old, so you were only gone those 3 years in seminary. You were gone to Denver for 3 years, and you came back. So, as you say, a vast majority Prairie Lakes has been your church, and not only as a parishioner, congregant, but as a leader. So, good job. So, hey. We just saw a short version of 17 years, very impactful ministry. So here's why lead pastor? I mean, why? Yeah. What's God doing in you that's causing Him to just draw you and call you to this next season?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've been a part of that, and honestly, like that really has been a journey for me that's kind of gone like 10 years now. Yeah. Which is strange. But that's always the way it is. There's always stuff kind of going on behind the scenes. And then I just want to catch everybody up to just what God's been doing and stuff like that. So you saw in the video, our very first multi-site campus was at Waterloo. And we wanted to do that really for like 2 reasons. One was, we were one church in the Cedar Valley. We were growing, but there's a part of our community that we just weren't really reaching into, the northern and eastern side of Waterloo. And there's a lot of communities in Iowa that are like that. Fort Dodge is the one. Every time I travel to Fort Dodge, I'm like, this is Waterloo, where there's a part of this community, but then there's several kind of almost parts of different communities within the community. Sometimes like race and socioeconomic status and stuff like that. So we wanted to like do something to make a kingdom impact in a part of Waterloo that we weren't really impacting. And we learned a couple things. We did a couple, actually some great things all the way through that, but we did learn 2 things. Good lessons. One was you can't really do a multi-site campus just down the road from the Cedar Falls campus. It just wasn't going to work. That may seem obvious to us now, but like just Cedar Falls couldn't help but just cannibalize. Yeah. That was number 1. And number 2 is this. And this was a hard lesson too. If we were going to make an impact in a different part of our community, we were much better served to partner with a different kind of church to do that, rather than to try to become a different kind of church. Okay, and that's a simplistic way of summarizing that. But those were hard lessons, and those were hard lessons for me to learn, and I learned them the hard way. Shocker.
Shocker. We all usually learn the hard way.
Yeah. So, about halfway through, I was just personally frustrated. because what we were doing, there was some cool stuff, but we weren't growing, and just banging around at different stuff and trying a lot of different stuff, and just nothing was really working. And I got frustrated with that, and then I got discouraged, and then I got really fatigued, really tired. And then eventually I got resentful, and then that went to being critical. And now, 10 years after that, I could see it pretty clearly. In the moment, I could not. And so I was blind to really what was going on inside of me. And God was gracious to me, but kind of gracious in more of like a disciplinary kind of way. And he kind of gave me insight into what was going on inside me. And he did it in kind of an uncomfortable way. But I started to notice I was having conversations with people that were unsolicited. Like they were like coming to me with stuff, and they were coming to me with like criticisms about our church, about culture, and Cedar Falls does this, and Waterloo does this, and then a lot of criticisms of you started coming my way, and I started being really puzzled about it. I'm like, wow, why are you? This is weird. Like, why are you talking to me like I don't really share that? And then I had to really come to grips with why people were doing that, and that was because I was doing that, and that was a painful realization for me, because I did not think that I would be a disloyal guy. I didn't think I'd be a disrespectful guy, but that's what was happening, and I had to come to you, and I had to own that, and then I had asked for your forgiveness. And those were things that I was very convicted to do. And I credit to you. I was not looking forward to doing that, but I wasn't afraid to do it. Just because of who you are and because of our history together. And you did exactly what I thought you would do. You forgave me quickly. But that was a moment. And that's really where this moment started from, which is kind of weird, but that's what it is. And what it did is once we were able to kind of get on the same page again, I just kind of started to say, hey, I think I probably want to lead. Yep. And I think I'm sensing maybe even lead a little bit differently than you. And the last thing I want to do is do that in a way that harms your reputation or our church. And I feel like I have been doing that, and that's done.
I remember that conversation when you said, I can promise you that I will.
I'm making the commitment. Yeah. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to lead with alignment, but I'm also probably going to explore opportunities elsewhere.
You wanted to be a lead pastor. You saw that was a part of your
calling. Started to explore it back then.
Yeah. Which both those conversations weren't unusual for us. That we always say, let's keep things on the table, and we offend people. I offend people, you offend people, we sin, we do things, but for us to be able to, that's not unusual for you to come and say, forgive me for this, and I've been wrong.
No.
Not unusual. And it's not unusual for you to say, I'm exploring what God might have for me, will you be a reference for me?
Yeah, and you are not the only one that I've had to come up and like, hey, I'm sorry, I messed that up. But that started me on a different, just started me on a kind of exploratory path way back then, and in fact, I think you were even fielded a couple of reference calls.
Sabotaged a couple of them for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I mean, whatever happened there, it just didn't work out, right? So we just continued to lead in Waterloo and continued to kind of see what God was up to, and just continued to wait. Fast forward to like 2015, and life of our church back then, we were kind of stuck. We had 4 or 5 campuses. We had grown, but not really developed to support that growth. Right. And so you made the call to invite a group called the Unstuck Ministry Consultants in, and we really benefited from that.
That was a key moment for us in that season of multi-site. Nobody knew what they were doing really. We were a little bit of the front edge of that, especially in a more rural setting. So
exactly.
That was a beautiful season when Unstuck came in.
Yeah, and so there was huge things that kind of came out of that. One was we were going to merge the Waterloo campus with Hope City Church. Yep. And I wish we could spend hours telling you that
it's been
story. It
great.
was a super cool thing that God did, that our board did.
Yeah.
Just a cool story of what they're doing. Anyways, that was one, but that kind of put me out of a job. And there was a time where it was like, I don't know I don't know. That was the right decision. We're not sure what this means for me.
Yeah. Well, it was
And I was
open-handed moment for you.
I was in an exploratory time too. So maybe I'm working at Target. Maybe I'm working at Deere for a little bit. I don't know, But then they made a couple of other recommendations. One, we were going to redo our staff leadership team into an executive kind of staff leadership team. We were going to form a teaching team.
Yes.
And then they created a position, or they recommended a position where someone would oversee, their primary job would be oversee the campus pastors.
Yeah.
And so that's really kind of what I've been doing the last 7 years, is overseeing our campus pastors, leading our executive team, and being a part of a teaching team.
And one of the things is we kind of been gearing up for this particular weekend even was, man, I need to make sure Prairie Lakes Church knows this, because everybody kind of knows me and what I do, what they think I do and all that. But that recommendation by Unstuck to develop this leadership position, to oversee and then to develop and work the strategy and get the goals and the metrics. And I can look you and I, and you know this. We've talked about this many times. It's not a knock on me or anybody, but we would not be here if you wouldn't have been willing at that season to say, I'll take that position. We asked you to do it, and you would take it, and you even kind of said, "Oh, let me prove it. Let me prove it that I can do this." And we would not be here today, Jesse, without that strategic leadership.
I appreciate that. It's been a joy to do. I mean, it really has. So, and the last part of this process for me, which leads me to today, is 2020. Remember 2020?
Yeah,
something happened in 2020. We were on the front edge of that pandemic, but still kind of in this process.
Yeah.
And about halfway through even my current position, like, as much as I love what I'm doing now, it was like I still have this tickle. Yeah. And this now it's very different. I'm not fatigued. I'm not tired. I'm not discouraged. I'm not even going a different direction.
The Holy Spirit inspired. I feel like this is what God's.
So I remember coming to you again and saying, "Hey, we haven't talked about this for a while, but I think," and you're like, "Yeah, I get it," And so my wife and I, we wanted to be really a lot more deliberate about it, and so we went out with a guy named Lance Witt, who I met through Unstuck, and he was Rick Warren's executive pastor, and just a wonderful man. But he is certified in a process called Life Plan.
Yeah.
And you actually did one too.
Yeah, with him. Yeah,
with him.
Kay and I we did Zoom with him.
Yeah, and just went out to his house and prayed for 2 days, went through exercises, had different conversations, and walked out of that going, yes, I think this is what God's calling us to do. And then the painful realization was this. And if that is the case, we got to explore that somewhere else, because you had just started to, you had been talking succession, but from a timeline standpoint, that was very much undefined in the future. Yeah. I was certainly okay with that. I was like, that's great, And so I came back from that July of 2020, kind of going, hey, I just kind of geared myself up. I think this is what's happening. And, in fact, there's a couple of search firms even that I was going to engage with. Right. And just ready to kind of like tell you this again. Yeah. And July of 2020, you went on a sabbatical.
Yeah, and I came back with, let me go back just 1 second. Yep. So on that realization after the life plan, I remember Aaron said this, that you guys had to kind of look at each other and go, if God's calling, it probably means somewhere else. And for both of you, that was a tearful, scary, frightening, like Prairie Lakes is our church, and
this is the place that we've raised our kids. My family's here. This is the church that I love. She had a different career and job coming up. I mean, it was just like, this is so
you helped shape it. Been a significant part of us getting here. So,
but we had to get that on the table.
Yeah,
right?
we did. Yeah, and it was, which we do. That's what we do around here.
That's right.
But I came back from that July kind of going, you know what, it's time. God put it clearly. Not only in 18, there was this really clear start the process. In 20, when I came back from that, it was really clearly really saying, okay, God, I think this needs to be sooner rather than later for somebody else to be the tip of the spear, the front bumper of Prairie Lakes.
And you didn't, because I remember this super clear. you certainly did not have a sense of when.
No,
still, but you just thought like what was surprising was like this could
Yeah.
be sooner than.
Because I was always like most people go, when I'm 62 or 3, we'll start,
Yes, right.
kind of doing that.
Right.
But yeah. So it wasn't super clear.
Yeah.
It wasn't super clear.
Yep. So that was the first thing. And I'll say, I remember pretty clearly the second thing that you said after that was you thought that I might be a good candidate for your successor. And then I could probably quote you because for me, it still was significant. You looked at me and you said, I think you can probably do the job. Yeah. I think you can do the job.
Got what it takes.
And that was big. And so I did not expect that from you in that moment.
Yeah.
And I remember going home to Aaron and go, this is what he said. Yeah. And again, even in then, no guarantees.
Right. No
promises. We didn't even know what this process was going to look like. Didn't know if I was going to be a good fit. Didn't even know if I was the kind of person
what the
that
Prairie
Lakes
was going to be.
There was so many things that were like, we don't know.
But the clarity was, you feel led to a lead pastor, and instead of having to go somewhere else, there might be a possibility.
The faith decision there was, should we pray about sticking around to see?
Yeah.
And we did. We prayed and it was like, yep, just stick around. Knowing that it may not work out, but just Galatians 5:25.
There you go.
We're just going to keep in step. We're just going to keep in step. We're just going to keep in step.
Yeah. So that really turned up the heat as we began to go. As I told the elders, hey, I think this can be sooner than later, and feeling God's Spirit on that. So we began about 2.5 years ago now, right? This really intentional process. It's been prayerful. It has been led by godly women and men, our elders, our succession committee, and it is a stringent and integrity-filled process. In fact, we're going to let our elders talk about it. Watch this.
Pastor John came to us a while back with the challenge of that he feels God's leading him to a next chapter. What John did for us these past 20-some years doesn't quite fit the part where we feel God's leading us now, and that we needed to scrub this job description and kind of create a new job description.
Yeah, I just brought a lot of clarity on how this role should be defined and the needs of all the campuses with multi-sites and thinking about where we're going to go into the future.
I think that's one of the good reasons that we leveraged some external skills and contracted with a consultant to kind of walk us through a process and teach us how to do this well.
I'm newer to the board and came into the middle of the process. I think the thing that struck me the most was one of my first meetings. We were all on our knees praying. That just really sticks with me, that it was prayer-led, spirit-led.
So knowing that there's a higher success rate with internal candidates, we started with an internal look at candidates and evaluated those that were on the staff to see if they fit that. And Jesse was identified as someone who could potentially meet that criteria. And so that's when we request that he apply for the position and walk through this vetting process.
This was definitely one of the most thorough interview processes I've ever been to. I'm not sure that presidential candidates are vetted even this thoroughly, so I can confidently say that there was no stone left unturned during this process.
That started with the standard application that anybody would go through with Prairie Lakes, but it also included references. It included some answers to some theological questions that we had. Walked through 3 pretty intensive sessions with groups on the board who were asking questions, a lot of questions on the same measures, to make sure that we had a good understanding of where Pastor Jesse stood on those, but I think also from Jesse's seat, able to see what was important to us.
In addition, I think the external benchmarking that we did was really important. We used Auxano as our consultant, and they just did a great job, I thought, of looking at Jesse. They benchmarked him against other external lead pastors for us. And the feedback that they provided to us, I think, was just really reassuring that Jesse is such a strong lead pastor candidate. Mm-hmm. And we are really lucky to have him here on our staff already.
We wanted to make sure we were aligned with is all the campus pastors and staff, and so there was various different ways that we reached out and got their feedback. I think, because of that, it really validates that we have the right candidate.
I would say he not only knows our mission and vision, but he was and has been influential in helping develop that.
I think knowing him has been good to know his strengths, but to also know where his growth edges are too. And we were probably overly critical on that side because we know him.
I think it was obvious that he has a heart for God and he has a passion to find the lost.
Well, and he's got some national exposure with his consulting he does, and that brings so many beneficial things back to our church.
One of the things that I learned through that was how much the staff in particular appreciated his consulting, because they really could see how much value that's brought to the church.
He was very vulnerable and shared times when, maybe he made the wrong decision and maybe didn't approach something correctly, and how he's learned from that, how he's sought out wise counsel and corrected some of those things in his past. And so that was very encouraging.
So 2 weeks ago, we gathered as elders in this room, and we made the decision to recommend Jesse as a candidate for the lead pastor of Prairie Lakes Church unanimously. What went into that thought process for you as an individual elder?
I could feel the prayers at 525 every day. Jesse was humble, honest, vulnerable, and just extremely qualified for the job.
I had a lot of peace knowing that we had a very thorough process.
He's really been interviewing for this for years. I think the role that he has as the executive pastor, he is doing many of the things that align with the job description. That gives me great confidence that he's the right candidate.
For me, it was just an overwhelming sense of peace, and that I know that's from the Holy Spirit.
It was not an easy process, but because of the hours and hours of work that was put in, it was an easy decision.
To know that Pastor John is still going to be around, but also to see Pastor Jesse's enthusiasm and vision for where Prairie Lakes is going and the next chapter, it makes it really super exciting that we get to move on to the next chapter with a great lead pastor candidate.
I hope you sensed a couple things from that video. The deliberate, integrity-filled process, and their excitement and their joy and their Holy Spirit-led decision to come to this moment, to unanimously, like I said before, unanimously and joyfully offer you as the lead pastor candidate at Prairie Lakes Church. So Prairie Lakes, in just a little bit, your campus pastor is going to come up. And they're going to share a few things about kind of what's next and your specific part in it, and dates when you and I will be at each campus to have all kinds of room and opportunity for people to engage with you and Aaron, and us together, ask questions and share concerns, or just what's next and all those kind of things. So we're really excited about that. So your CP is going to bring you all that in just a minute. But before we get there, Jesse, let's just project ahead. Let's say we get through this. What would you really be excited about? Stepping into this position. I can tell you what I'm excited about. Wanting you to. But what would you be excited about for?
Well, and that's a question. Obviously, through this process, I've had a chance to kind of think about and answer, and I've stuck with this. Okay, because I'm nervous about how I'm answering this question, and I'm nervous about it because, I'm nervous I'm gonna it's a disappointing and boring answer. Because I want to be like, well, here's all these cool new things, but I'm going to fix this place. I kind of like, leading a no matter church.
Just a little bit, right?
Like no matters kind of a thing. I don't know if you've heard, we're trying to reach Iowa. I'm kind of excited about that.
Too.
On a much more sincere level, these are things that I've had a chance to shape and lead and lean into and design and push for and sacrifice for. And what's cool is over the last 13 years that we've been those have really been our guiding principles there. We have dotted a huge part of our state. And now, if this is something that God's calling us to next, we have some unique challenges that we have to figure out how to make our expansion strategy more portable. I mean, if Cedar Falls, Cedar Valley is the hub right now, and we have campuses around because our strategy really has been launching out of the Cedar Valley, we probably need to figure out a way to equip some of our campuses to reach their part of Iowa with the next campus even. So how could we centrally support a campus as we collectively reach Iowa? That's kind of a cool thing, I think. I'm really excited about that. And the second is this. This is a phrase I've just kept going back to and going back to. There's been a lot of alarmism these past 3 or 4 years. Just a lot of things where like the world is like, and sometimes it's kind of real, like the sky really is
literally is ending.
The world really is ending.
And we know Jesus is going to come back someday.
For sure,
We're
for
ready
sure.
for him.
But things in our culture, things, I mean, like just there's a lot of,
Yeah.
listen, optimism, not alarmism.
Yes.
Optimism, not alarmism.
What a great opportunity for the church.
Jesus is still in charge.
Yeah.
And let's be optimistic about reaching a culture that is what culture always has been.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what Jesus laid down, and we're going to celebrate this in just a couple weeks.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus laid down his life for. I'm most excited about reaching people who just, they don't know.
They don't know.
And helping them see a God who loves them so much that he sent his son. And that everything can be different, right? So those are the things. Couple of scriptures real quick that have been important just to me. One is from Joshua. Succession, the thing we're walking through. This is not a new thing, all right? So, and by the way, you're not Moses and I'm not Joshua, right?
Come on,
you're not going to
man.
go up into a mountain and die, and I'm not going to go, start wars, right? That's not what we're saying.
Good call.
What we're saying is this: God, for a very long time, has swapped out leaders.
Yes. Yeah.
Switched seats.
They've been switching seats for a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
And just look at this, okay? So now this is the spot where Moses is leading the people of Israel through the desert, and they're about to go in the promised land, right? So the priests who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan until everything the Lord had commanded. Everything the Lord had commanded. Okay, so it wasn't Moses' commands, it wasn't Joshua's commands, not the leader. It's always God in charge. Yeah. Joshua was done by the people, just as Moses directed Joshua. Keep going. The people hurried over, and as soon as all of them crossed the Jordan, the ark of the Lord and the priests came to the other side while the people watched. Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh crossed over, ready for battle in front of the Israelites, as Moses had directed them. About 40,000 armed for battle crossed over before. There's this whole group of people that are following the leader. And that day, and here's the thing, the Lord exalted. Yeah. He exalted the next leader, and he may and he may not, right? Yep. But the point is this: God is in charge of this, and He is. And I'm not saying because I know what the outcome is. I'm not saying that. I just know He's in charge, regardless of the outcome. Regardless of the outcome, the Lord exalts leaders. Okay, that's one.
He's been in this business for a long time.
He kind of knows what He's doing. Number one. Number two is this coming out of Psalm 74 here. Okay, and just same theme. But God is my King. God is my King from long ago. He brings salvation to the earth. It was you who split open the sea by your power. You broke the heads of the monsters in the waters. Keep going here. It was you who crushed the heads of the Leviathan. Do you see a theme here? It was you who opened up the springs and streams. You dried up the ever-flowing rivers. The day is yours, God, and yours is also the night. You established the sun and the moon. It was you, 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 it was you. Yeah. Even before we came to this weekend, the prayer really, for me, has always been, you, not me. Yeah. You, not us. Yeah. Not our anxiety, not our desires, not our wishes, not our hopes, not our fears, not our desire to come off good, to have the plan, all whatever. God, you. Yeah. You. And whatever He wants, right, is best for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads me to, I'm going to pray in a second, but let me just ask you this. What if the vote is 75% sorry Bible? What if it's 74%?
What if it's 74?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm burning this place to the ground. Just undo everything we just said. That question we've had to answer. My wife and I, Erin and I, have had to answer in different ways all the way through this process. So like, what if the job description they create isn't a good fit? What if it is a good fit and I go through a process and I'm not the guy? What if we get to a vetting process and our campus pastors have a big problem with it? What if our staff does? What if our people do? Throughout this process, and this is God's grace in all of this, like we have been very open-handed, and we would continue to be very open-handed. If there's 74%, we go back just like we have through this whole process and go like, God, what are you doing next? And I'm not going to pretend to know what that is, but I will say that's the journey and the approach that we've taken to this point, and that's what we would continue.
Yeah, you and Erin have really just said, we're going to walk in. We think God's calling us to walk through this door, and we're going to walk through it and see what he wants to do.
And I hope you know, I've shared some pretty vulnerable things this weekend, some kind of maybe you feel uncomfortable kind of things. If you don't know me, that's what I do. If we're walking into this process and I'm not, it's okay. Okay? The church goes on. The mission goes on. We try to figure out what's next for you. We'll figure out what's next for me. It will not be scandalous. It will not be harmful. There won't be splits because none of us are in this for us. We're just trying to figure out and keep in step with what God's doing.
Nobody wants God's will to be done more than you and me.
That's right.
And our elders and our succession team and our staff and you.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
All right. Hey, I want to say two things to everybody. One, thanks for being willing to put yourself in this position, okay? I asked you early on, you sure you want to, remember that? Dude, you sure you want to put yourself through this?
Not just early on, but like kind of at moments.
Moments all your life I've been asking, you sure you want to keep it? No, it's been you, and you've been prayerful, and I can say, Jesse, it's my privilege to be your pastor. And if this goes through, it's going to be my privilege to not be the tip of the spear, but to get a minister to and serve and be a pastor to the tip of the spear.
A huge part of this for me, and this is probably worth saying too, that I am very excited about, and we had to talk about this really early on, was like, I would not just love, but and not just be grateful for either, but like covet a partnership with you in the next season. And so the idea of you sticking around, continuing to be my pastor, continuing to be a coach, continuing to be a support, continuing to be a resource of wisdom, just like you have been for 20 years. That would be a cool thing for me.
And a cool thing for me. All right. Hey, Prairie Lakes, I'm gonna ask us to pray together now, and we're gonna worship, and then at the end, your CP is gonna share some more. So let's pray right now, okay? So Father, we do give this to you, this process, this season, the season in the life of not only Prairie Lakes across Iowa, but Jesse and Erin, and Jude and Ellie, and Kay and me and our kids. And God, we're grateful. We trust your leadership. And God, we are so grateful for this church and what you've done and what you're gonna do. Bless this process and bless Jesse in the middle of this. May this be a great blessing in the life of the Tink family. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Amen. Amen.
This is exciting, but this is a big deal. This is a big deal, church. This is also a big deal for me personally. I've got a lot of stake in this. Prairie Lakes Church is not only just the church that we belong to, but it's where I work. It's where my wife and my kids go and are connected. It's where a lot of people in my little Iowa grow and take steps and are connected. So there's a lot at stake here for me, but I'm just so excited about Jesse as a candidate. I've had the privilege since being here to have a relationship with Jesse in a few ways. He's been my supervisor, he's been a friend, he's been a pastor to me, and I've just been blessed by him so much in my time here at Prairie Lakes Church. I am so excited about him as a candidate, his leadership skills, his heart for reaching the state, his strategic mindset. I think he is just perfectly wired for this role and our mission to reach the state with no matter churches. So I'm super excited about this, but I just want to encourage you in a few ways from here moving forward. First, to keep praying. At 5:25, if you don't have that alarm still going, set it either AM or PM, have that go off every day to remind you to be praying for us to keep in step with the Spirit throughout this succession process. And the second would be, if you're not a member, now's a great time to take that step. This will be a membership vote on the lead pastor, on Jesse as the candidate, to encourage you to take that step if you've been on the fence. And now would be a great time to do that. And you can learn more, you can sign up for the membership process to start by texting membership to 99581. Again, that's membership to 99581. And just encourage you to explore that. The vote will take place here in May of this year. So it'd be great to take that step here today. But kids, you are going to be up just after that song, so don't run off. We're going to continue in worship with one last song, and then we're going to close down the service. So good to see you all this weekend.
Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. I'm waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won. For you have never failed me yet. The promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. Still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. I know the night won't last. Your word will come to pass. Heart will sing your praise again. Jesus, you're still enough to keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, Lord, your faithfulness. Still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail me yet. Never fail me yet.
You are above every other. Your love amazes me. You created every beautiful color for everyone to see. I want the world to know, I want my life to show just what your love has done for me. Good and perfect. I give you all of my praise, God, 'cause only you deserve it. I want the world to know, I want my life to show just what your love has done for me. In your love I'm free, in your love I'm forgiven, forgiven. Your love, it makes me sing, your love, it gives me a reason to lift my voice, yeah. I lift my voice, yeah.
Hey, welcome to Story Lab. This week, we're talking about forgiveness, while we take a look at the story of a man who found himself far from home.
Hey, I'm Skylar.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're talking about forgiveness.
Which is deciding that someone who has wronged you doesn't have to pay.
What's that?
I thought I tried my hand at a little sketch for today's show.
Can I see it?
It's not good.
Please, 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 please.
I mean...
It looked really good from what I saw. Can I see it?
Okay.
The fig is really cute. I like it.
Can I have it back?
Yeah, of course. Oh no! I am so sorry.
Great.
Thanks. Okay. What are you doing?
It's ruined.
No, you can totally save that. Make it into something cool.
You have to say that because you messed it up.
No. Lots of great artists make big mistakes and use them in their artwork.
Really?
For sure. In fact, I know one of them. Her name is Whitney, and we're gonna talk to her. Right now.
Did you plan this?
Happy accident. Hey, Whitney, come on in. Hey!
Hi.
It's good to see you.
Yes, you too.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you do?
Sure, I am an artist. I draw and I paint. I also do some cut paper animation. I've been drawing and painting since I was a little girl.
That's awesome. What do we have here?
Right, so I like to draw from observation. This is candy, and that I had lying around my house, and a plant, and also trees. I love drawing trees in different seasons.
These are amazing. What got you interested in art?
Well, I've always loved to draw and paint, but when I was in high school, my art teacher laughed at me because I couldn't read a ruler. And she said, "You're gonna be an art teacher," and that is exactly what I did.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I like to paint, it always turns into some unrecognizable color blotches.
Well, I made a lot of mistakes too when I first started painting, and I still struggle with how to create what I see in my imagination.
So, what do you do with your mistakes?
Well, I like to say that I repurpose them. Take this, for example. I was using my hot glue gun, and it dripped all over this canvas I was already working on.
Honestly, it still looks pretty cool to me, but I get what you mean.
So, how will you repurpose that?
I've got a few ideas. Can I show you later?
Absolutely. In the meantime, it's time for...
The story before the story.
Today, we're in Luke. But before Luke, in the very beginning, out of a deep, deep love, God made an amazing world.
But when people turned away from God, the world was broken.
God made a plan to draw people back into relationship. So, at the right time, God sent a tiny baby to be born in the small town of Bethlehem. God's very own son, Jesus.
When Jesus grew up, he began to travel from town to town, teaching and healing. Often when Jesus taught, he spoke in parables or stories using everyday things to help people understand spiritual truths.
Which is where our story starts.
Take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Chloe.
Hi, Chloe.
One day, while Jesus was teaching, a group of tax collectors and others who were considered outcasts gathered around Jesus. The religious leaders were totally shocked by this.
This man welcomes sinners and riffraff.
He even eats with them.
Jesus turned to the leaders and invited them to listen too. He spoke to them in parables, or stories, one about a lost sheep and one about a lost coin. The third story was about a lost son. There once was a wealthy man who had 2 sons. The youngest son was totally fed up with living at home. He hated having to do what his dad said and trying to live up to his perfect big brother. So, he did something extreme.
Give me my share of all your money.
Now, this was really rude, but it's even worse than you might think. Usually, family money would only be passed on to children after the father died. So, it's like the younger son was saying he wished his father was dead. Even though the father must have been terribly hurt, he divided up his property and gave a share of the money to the younger son.
I'm in the money, woohoo, the sky is sunny.
The younger son took off for a faraway country. When he arrived, he started spending money like it was water. Fine clothes, awesome food, wild parties. The younger son lived it up, big time. But You can guess what happened. The money ran out. And right about that time, a famine hit. It was hard to find food, even if you did have money. The younger son was stuck, so he went to work for a pig farmer. The younger son was so desperate, he actually wanted to eat the disgusting pig scraps. The sharp hunger in his stomach woke him up.
At home, my father's servants have more than enough food to eat, but I'm dying from hunger.
The younger son started to form a plan.
I'll go home to my father. I'll say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and I have sinned against you. I am no longer fit to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. Yeah, that's it.
So the younger son set off for home. He was tired and weak, and the journey seemed to take forever. But at last, he neared home.
I'm no longer fit to be called your son.
But while the son was still a long way off, his father saw him. The father's heart was filled with love. He ran to his son and threw his arms around him and kissed him.
Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer fit to be called your son.
But the father called out to the servants.
Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattest calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. This son of mine was dead, and now he is alive again. He was lost, and now he is found.
In no time at all, the younger son was dressed in fresh clothes instead of rags, and found himself the guest of honor at the feast. His head must have been spinning. But meantime, we can't forget the older brother. The whole time his kid brother was out living wild and wasting money, the older brother was working hard for their father. The older brother had been out in the field all day, so when he came home to the sounds of music and dancing, he was shocked. He called one of the servants.
What's going on?
Haven't you heard? Your brother came back. Your dad's so excited, he killed the fattest calf for a party.
What?
You should come in. Your father's looking for you.
Let me think. No.
Just think what you'd feel like if you were the older brother. This whole thing was so unfair. When the father came out and begged his older son to come in, the son let him have it.
Look, all these years, I've worked like a slave for you. I have always obeyed your orders. You never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But this son of yours wasted your money on crazy things. Now he comes home, and for him, you kill the fattest calf.
The father looked on his older son with the same love he gave his younger son.
My son, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad. This brother of yours was dead, and now he is alive again. He was lost, and now he is found.
And that's the end. Jesus didn't tell the crowd what happened next. Maybe the older brother had a change of heart and came inside to have a blast with his brother. Or maybe he held on to his anger and stayed outside, alone. The end.
Wow, there is a lot going on in that story.
Yeah, sometimes I get the younger brother. Sometimes I want to do what I want to do. But then also sometimes I feel like the older brother, and I want everything to be perfectly fair.
They both needed forgiveness.
The younger brother for being hurtful and making really poor decisions.
And the older one for being angry and bitter.
So, what's our part in the story?
Well, the father forgave both his sons. He forgave the son who did big, bold, awful things, but he also forgave the son who did everything right on the outside, but had a hard, bitter heart. And God is just like that father.
God is always ready to forgive you for what you've done, no matter how big or small.
If you go on a website that your parents specifically told you is off limits.
Or you had a rotten attitude when your mom asked you to do something.
if you lie about brushing your teeth.
No matter what, you can always come back to God and know that God will forgive you.
Just like the younger son.
And the older one, too.
Knowing God will forgive you is never an excuse to try getting away with something. You will only hurt yourself and others. But you can have absolute confidence that God will always welcome you back, no matter what.
It's the most amazing news ever.
You got that right. See you next time.
Bye, Chloe. So here's the thing. God will always forgive you.
Yeah, God is like a master artist. He takes our messes and mistakes and turns them into something beautiful.
Speaking of which,
Hey there.
hey, we're so excited to see what you did with your mess up.
Well, here you go.
Wow.
I took my hot glue gun and I added more hot glue and then I turned it into flowers.
It looks like you did it on purpose.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us today and showing us your process.
My pleasure. See you guys next time.
Bye, Whitney.
She really inspired me.
Hey, let's see your sketch. See how your mistake turned into something amazing?
Yeah. Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab.
See you next time.